Have you ever wondered if it is possible to face evil without resorting to violence, hatred, or resentment? What if I told you that there is a way to transform even the worst situations using only the power of good? Today, we're going to explore the most powerful tools humanity has discovered to overcome evil with good, and you'll be amazed at how simple and effective they can be. Ready to discover how to change the world, starting with yourself? Let's get to it. Nonviolence, or ahimsa, is a philosophical principle that has been central to many spiritual and ethical traditions throughout history. It is based on the idea that violence, in any of its forms, not only harms others, but also corrupts the perpetrator himself. Ahimsa, originating from the teachings of Hinduism, Buddhism, and Jainism, promotes the idea that every living being has intrinsic value and that true strength is demonstrated through compassion, patience, and peaceful endurance. This philosophy holds that hatred and violence only generate more hatred and violence, while nonviolence, while it may seem like a weak or passive option, is actually an active and powerful force that can disarm opponents, diffuse conflicts, and open doors to deeper understanding. Throughout history, the non-violence approach has been adopted by leaders who face situations of great injustice and oppression. An iconic example is that of Mahatma Gandhi, who applied ahimsa in the struggle for India's independence from British colonial rule. Gandhi firmly believed that non-violence was not simply the absence of physical violence, but also the absence of hatred in the heart. Under his leadership, millions of Indians participated in acts of non-violent civil disobedience, such as the famous Salt March, demonstrating that peaceful resistance can be an effective tool for achieving meaningful political and social change. Another notable example is that of Martin Luther King Jr., who, inspired by Gandhi's teachings, led the civil rights movement in the United States in the 1960s. King argued that love and nonviolence were the only weapons capable of overcoming racial injustice. Through marches, peaceful protests, and powerful speeches, King and his followers made crucial strides in the fight against racial segregation and discrimination, demonstrating that nonviolence can be an effective means of achieving social justice. Nelson Mandela also used the philosophy of nonviolence during much of his struggle against apartheid in South Africa. Although his movement initially included armed resistance, Mandela came to the conclusion that true peace and reconciliation could only be achieved through dialogue and nonviolence. His commitment to reconciliation and forgiveness, even after spending 27 years in prison, was central to South Africa's peaceful transition to a multiracial democracy. In addition, the philosophy of nonviolence has influenced contemporary movements such as the Velvet Revolution in Czechoslovakia and the Jasmine Revolution in Tunisia, where peaceful resistance played a key role in overthrowing authoritarian regimes without resorting to violence. Nonviolence is not only effective on a social and political level, but also on a personal level. In situations of everyday conflict, applying the principle of ahimsa means responding to hatred with understanding, aggression with calm, and resentment with forgiveness. Although it may seem difficult or even impossible, those who practice nonviolence in their daily lives find that, over time, they can transform their relationships and environments, creating spaces where peace and harmony prevail over conflict and discord. Nonviolence invites us to look beyond our immediate emotions and consider the long-term impact of our actions, teaching us that true power lies not in dominating or destroying, but in understanding, respecting, and healing. And the golden rule, treat others as you would be treated, is a universal ethical principle that has been adopted and taught by various cultures and religions throughout history. This concept, which at its core advocates empathy and mutual respect, has served as a simple but profound moral guide for human coexistence. In Christianity, for example, Jesus of Nazareth taught his followers, "Do unto others as you would have them do unto you," a command that sums up the essence of love of neighbor and seeks to establish a solid foundation for harmonious human relationships. Similarly, Islam contains this principle in the hadith of the Prophet Muhammad. None of you is a true believer until he desires for his brother what he desires for himself. Here the focus is on solidarity and compassion towards others, recognizing that we are all interconnected in our shared humanity. In Hinduism, the Mahabharata expresses a similar idea. Do not do to others what, if they did it to you, would cause you pain. This principle, as in other traditions, highlights the importance of empathy and considering the emotions and experiences of others before acting. Buddhism also reflects this principle in its teachings on compassion and interdependence. Buddha taught that the suffering of others is as important as one's own, and therefore, one should treat others with the same consideration and kindness with which one wishes to be treated. In Confucianism, Confucius expressed this concept succinctly. Do not do to others what you do not want them to do to you, emphasizing the importance of reciprocity and mutual respect in human relationships. Even in indigenous cultures and in older traditions, this principle has been a cornerstone of morality and social justice, underscoring that the common welfare depends on the ability of each individual to act with justice and consideration for others. In difficult situations, applying the golden rule can be challenging, but it is also a powerful tool for maintaining integrity and fostering peace. For example, when faced with conflict or disagreement, it is easy to be tempted to respond with hostility or aggression. However, if we stop to consider how we would like to be treated in a similar situation, we may opt for a more compassionate and constructive response. This does not mean giving in or compromising our beliefs, but rather addressing issues with an approach that fosters understanding and peaceful resolution. If we disagree with someone, instead of attacking or belittling, we could try to understand their point of view, just as we would like them to do with us. This practice not only reduces tension, but also opens the door to more meaningful dialogue and more effective solutions. Likewise, in situations where we might be tempted to take advantage of others for our personal gain, the Golden Rule reminds us to act with integrity and justice, just as we would expect others to act toward us. In the workplace, for example, treating colleagues and subordinates with respect and fairness is not only ethical, but also creates a more positive and productive work environment. When we make decisions that affect others, considering their perspectives and needs, just as we would like them to consider our own, can lead to fairer and more balanced decisions. In our personal relationships, applying this principle can strengthen bonds of trust and mutual respect. Treating friends, family, and loved ones with the same kindness, patience, and understanding that we wish to receive from them is the foundation of healthy and lasting relationships. Forgiveness is one of the most powerful and transformative forces that a human being can exert. Its importance lies in its ability to break cycles of hatred, resentment, and violence, allowing the healing of both the one who forgives and the one who is forgiven. Forgiveness does not mean forgetting or justifying the evil that has been done, but freeing oneself from the emotional chains that evil has imposed. When someone hurts us, it's natural to feel anger, pain, or a desire for revenge. However, holding on to these feelings only prolongs the suffering, poisoning our mind and spirit. The act of forgiving, on the other hand, is an act of liberation and courage. It involves letting go of resentment and bitterness and opting for inner peace. Forgiveness gives us the opportunity to rebuild relationships, overcome trauma, and move toward a healthier, more balanced future. It is a difficult path, but in the end, it is the only one that can lead to true reconciliation and the restoration of dignity and mutual respect. Throughout history, many figures have demonstrated the power of forgiveness at its finest, inspiring entire generations with their actions. A prominent example is that of Nelson Mandela, who, after spending 27 years in prison for his struggle against apartheid, chose to forgive his oppressors rather than seek revenge. Upon his release from prison, Mandela became a symbol of reconciliation in South Africa, leading the country towards a peaceful transition from a regime of racial segregation to a multiracial democracy. His ability to forgive and his insistence on the need to build a future based on respect and equality rather than retribution were instrumental in avoiding civil war and in establishing a solid foundation for the South African nation. Mandela understood that forgiveness was not just a personal act, but a crucial political strategy to heal a nation deeply divided and wounded by decades of injustice and oppression. Another powerful example is that of Mahatma Gandhi, whose approach to nonviolence and forgiveness was key in India's struggle for independence. Gandhi firmly believed in the capacity of the human being for good and in the power of love and forgiveness to transform even the most hardened hearts. Throughout his life, Gandhi practiced forgiveness on multiple occasions, including when faced with physical and verbal aggression from his adversaries. For Gandhi, forgiveness was not a sign of weakness, but a manifestation of moral strength. He taught that the ability to forgive others, even those who have done us great harm, is essential to peace and justice. In his view, forgiveness and nonviolence were tools to dismantle oppression without perpetuating the cycle of violence and hatred. His legacy continues to be a testament to how forgiveness can be a powerful force for social change. In a more recent context, Pope John Paul II demonstrated the power of forgiveness in a deeply moving way when, in 1981, he survived an assassination attempt. The Pope not only forgave his attacker, Mehmet Ali Aka, but also visited him in prison to offer his personal forgiveness. This act of public forgiveness had a profound impact, showing the world that even in situations of extreme pain and injustice, it is possible to choose the path of love and reconciliation. John Paul II's decision to forgive his aggressor was a clear example of how forgiveness can transcend personal wounds and send a powerful message of peace and hope to the world. This act demonstrated that forgiveness has the power to heal not only the people directly involved, but also to inspire entire communities to follow a path of reconciliation and mutual understanding. Empathy is the ability to understand and share another person's feelings, putting yourself in their shoes and perceiving the world from their perspective. Not only is this skill critical to building healthy human relationships, but it is also a powerful tool for countering evil and fostering peace in society. By understanding and acknowledging the emotions, needs, and experiences of others, empathy allows us to act with compassion and justice, reducing conflict and promoting harmony. When we are able to empathize with others, we are less inclined to judge or react with hostility. Rather than seeing someone as an enemy or an obstacle, empathy invites us to see them as a human being with their own struggles and challenges. This ability to connect emotionally with others is crucial to overcoming evil, as it helps us respond to negativity with understanding rather than more negativity. Empathy also plays a vital role in conflict resolution. When two people or groups disagree, it's easy to fall into the trap of demonizing the other and focusing solely on one's own needs and wants. However, empathy allows both parties to see the conflict from the other's perspective, which can lead to greater understanding and more equitable solutions. By acknowledging the other party's concerns and feelings, it is more likely that common ground will be found and compromises will be made that satisfy everyone involved. In this sense, empathy not only helps to resolve conflicts, but also prevents the escalation of tensions that could lead to violence. In addition, empathy allows us to recognize injustices and act accordingly. By putting ourselves in the shoes of those who suffer, we are driven to seek changes in our attitudes and in society, advocating for more humane and equitable treatment for all. Developing empathy in daily life takes practice and dedication. An effective technique is active listening, which involves paying full attention to what the other person is saying without interrupting or judging. Active listening means being present in the conversation, making a conscious effort to understand the other person's feelings and thoughts. Not only does this help to better understand your perspective, but it also reinforces the emotional connection and trust between both parties. Another technique is the practice of self-reflection, which invites us to consider our own emotional reactions and to ask ourselves why we feel what we feel. By reflecting on our emotions, we can identify thought patterns that prevent us from empathizing with others and working to change them. Self-reflection also helps us recognize our own vulnerabilities, which in turn makes us more understanding and less critical of others. Empathic imagination is another powerful tool for developing empathy. This practice involves imagining what it would be like to be in someone else's situation, trying to feel what they might be feeling. Empathic imagination not only helps us better understand the experiences of others, but it also prepares us to respond in more compassionate and supportive ways. For example, if a colleague is going through a difficult time, we can imagine how we would feel in their shoes and offer our support in a more genuine and considerate way. This technique is especially useful when dealing with people whose experiences are very different from our own, as it allows us to overcome barriers that may exist between us. In addition, practicing gratitude can increase our capacity for empathy. By focusing on the things we are grateful for, we are more likely to recognize and value the struggles and accomplishments of others, which in turn makes us more empathetic and less likely to envy or resent others. Love in its purest form is one of the most powerful and transformative forces in existence. It is capable of neutralizing hatred, dissolving evil, and creating deep connections between human beings, overcoming barriers of hatred, prejudice, and resentment. Throughout history, we have seen countless examples of how love, understood as a deep commitment to the well-being and dignity of others, has changed the course of history, turning situations of conflict and hopelessness into opportunities for reconciliation and peace. Love is not simply a passing emotion, but an active principle that guides our actions and decisions towards the common good. It is a power that can transform not only individuals, but also entire communities and societies. When we talk about love as a transformative force, we are referring to a type of love that goes beyond romantic love or personal affection. It is an unconditional love, a love that extends even to those who have wronged us or who are seen as our enemies. This love, often referred to as agape in the Christian tradition or metta in Buddhism, is a love that seeks the well-being of others without expecting anything in return. It is a love that is expressed through compassion, patience, forgiveness, and kindness. When practiced consistently, this love has the power to disarm those who seek to harm us, to transform hostility into cooperation, and to turn conflict into peace. By choosing to love others, even when it seems difficult or impossible, we are choosing the path of peace and reconciliation, a path that can change the world around us. A powerful example of love as a transformative force is found in the life of Martin Luther King Jr., who led the civil rights movement in the United States during the 1960s. King preached and practiced unconditional love as a tool to combat racism and injustice. Despite facing violent opposition, he never ceased to insist that the only way to overcome hatred and oppression was through love and nonviolence. In his famous "I Have a Dream" speech, King spoke of a future in which all of God's children, black and white, could sit together at the table of brotherhood. This dream was not simply an idealistic vision, but a deep conviction that love could overcome racial divisions and build a more just and equitable nation. The love King fostered was not a passive sentiment, but an active force that motivated millions of people to join in the fight for civil rights, challenging segregation and discrimination with dignity and respect. His love for humanity was so powerful that, even after his murder, his legacy of love and nonviolence continues to inspire movements for social justice around the world. Another notable example is that of Mother Teresa of Calcutta, whose life was dedicated to the service of the poorest and most marginalized. His unconditional love for the sick, dying, and abandoned transformed not only the lives of the people he cared for, but also the global perception about the importance of compassion and service to others. Mother Teresa saw the face of God in every person, regardless of their condition, and this prompted her to give love and care to those who needed it most, without expecting anything in return. Her work in the poorest neighborhoods of Kolkata and other parts of the world showed how love can transform despair into hope, pain into comfort, and loneliness into companionship. His example of selfless love has inspired thousands of people to engage in humanitarian service, showing that love can be a powerful force for positive change in the world. Restorative justice is an approach that focuses on repairing the harm caused by a crime or conflict, rather than simply punishing the offender. Unlike punitive justice, which seeks to impose a sanction proportionate to the crime with the aim of punishing the guilty party and deterring future crimes, restorative justice places the emphasis on restoring relationships and reintegrating all affected parties. This approach is based on the idea that crime is not only a violation of the law, but also a breakdown in human and community relationships. Therefore, the most effective solution is not necessarily to punish, but to find ways to repair the harm, restore relationships, and reintegrate both the victim and the offender into the community. Restorative justice seeks to involve all affected parties, including the victim, the offender, and the community, in a process of dialogue and negotiation, with the goal of reaching an agreement that meets everyone's needs. In traditional punitive justice, the focus is on determining guilt and assigning a punishment that is seen as appropriate for the crime committed. This system tends to see offenders as individuals who must be punished in order for a lesson to be learned and to protect society from future harm. However, this approach often ignores the needs and desires of victims, who may be left unsatisfied by the simple fact that the offender is punished. In addition, punitive justice can be alienating for offenders, who, after serving their sentence, often find it difficult to reintegrate into society, which can lead to a cycle of recidivism. In contrast, restorative justice offers an alternative that seeks not only to punish, but also to cure. By involving victims in the process, they are given the opportunity to express how the crime affected them, and they are allowed to be part of the process of finding a solution. This can include direct mediation between the victim and the offender, where both parties can talk about the impact of the crime and negotiate an agreement on how the harm can be repaired. Restorative justice also focuses on the offender's reintegration into society. Rather than simply punishing and excluding, this approach seeks to help the offender understand the impact of their actions, take responsibility, and take concrete steps to repair the harm caused. This process may include formal apologies, the payment of compensation, community service, or any other action that the parties involved deem fair and appropriate. The idea is that, by taking responsibility and making amends, the offender can be reintegrated into the community in a positive way, thus reducing the chances of recidivism. Restorative justice, therefore, not only seeks to heal victims, but also to rehabilitate offenders, creating a cycle of healing and reintegration rather than one of punishment and exclusion. The role of virtue in everyday life is critical to confronting and overcoming evil, and to creating an environment in which good can flourish. Virtues are moral qualities that guide our actions and decisions, enabling us to act correctly and fairly even in difficult situations. Among the key virtues that can help us overcome evil with good are humility, patience, fortitude, justice, generosity, and temperance. Each of these virtues plays a crucial role in forming a strong moral character, which not only protects us from falling into evil, but also enables us to respond to evil with actions that promote good. Humility is the virtue that allows us to recognize our own limitations and mistakes, preventing pride from leading us to act selfishly or destructively. In everyday life, humility helps us to stay open to constructive criticism and to learn from our mistakes. When we face a situation where someone has offended or harmed us, humility reminds us that we too are fallible and that everyone deserves a second chance. By cultivating humility, we can avoid reacting with anger or resentment, opting instead for forgiveness and understanding. Not only does this help us maintain inner peace, but it can also disarm those who are trying to cause us harm by responding to them with an attitude of respect and empathy rather than hostility. Patience is another essential virtue to confront evil with good. Patience allows us to endure difficulties and challenges without losing our cool or giving in to frustration. In everyday situations, patience manifests itself in our ability to tolerate the imperfections of others and in our willingness to wait for the right moment before acting or responding. When we are patient, we don't get carried away by negative impulses like anger or despair, but instead take the time to reflect and consider the consequences of our actions. Patience gives us the strength to resist the temptation to respond to evil with more evil, and it allows us to seek more constructive and lasting solutions to the problems we face. By practicing patience, we can maintain clarity and serenity even in the midst of adversity, allowing us to act wisely and compassionately. Fortitude is the virtue that gives us the ability to face fear, pain, and hardship with courage and determination. In daily life, strength is shown in our ability to persevere in our principles and values, even when it is difficult or unpopular to do so. When we face evil, fortitude helps us stand firm in our convictions, despite the pressure to give in or conform. This virtue is essential when we fight for justice or defend those who are vulnerable or persecuted. Fortitude allows us to act courageously in situations where others might choose comfort or indifference. By cultivating strength, we develop an inner resilience that allows us to overcome the challenges and obstacles we encounter along the way without succumbing to discouragement or hopelessness. Justice is another central virtue in the fight against evil. Justice impels us to act equitably and to treat others with fairness and respect. In everyday life, justice is reflected in our interactions with others, how we allocate resources, and how we make decisions that affect other people. Practicing justice means making sure that our actions are just and that they do not cause harm or harm to others. In conflict situations, justice leads us to consider not only our own interests, but also the rights and needs of others. By cultivating justice, we contribute to the creation of an environment in which good can prevail, and in which all have the opportunity to prosper and live in harmony. Generosity is the virtue that motivates us to give selflessly to others without expecting anything in return. In everyday life, generosity manifests itself in small acts of kindness and in our willingness to share what we have, whether it's time, resources, or emotional support. Generosity is a direct response to selfishness and evil, as it leads us to put the needs of others above our own. By being generous, we can alleviate the suffering of others and strengthen the bonds of community and solidarity. Generosity not only benefits those who receive, but it also enriches those who give, by fostering a sense of purpose and connection with others. By cultivating generosity, we can counter the forces of evil that seek to divide and isolate us, and we can build a more just and compassionate world. Finally, temperance is the virtue that helps us control our desires and appetites, keeping them in a healthy balance. In everyday life, temperance guides us to avoid excesses and to live in a moderate and balanced way. This virtue is especially important in a world where we are often tempted by overconsumption, indulgence, and the pursuit of short-term pleasure. Temperance allows us to resist these temptations and helps us maintain a focus on what really matters, such as our relationships, our well-being, and our commitment to good. By practicing temperance, we can avoid falling into destructive behaviors and maintain a lifestyle that promotes health, happiness, and harmony. The ancient wisdom of the great philosophers has left a profound legacy on how to confront evil and promote good in daily life. Through their teachings, figures such as Socrates, Confucius, and Gandhi have offered us valuable tools to live ethically and meaningfully, facing life's challenges with integrity, compassion, and wisdom. These lessons, though formulated centuries ago, are still relevant today, providing a framework for approaching contemporary issues with a perspective that transcends time and place. Socrates, one of the most influential philosophers of ancient Greece, taught that knowledge and virtue are inseparable. For Socrates, evil arises from ignorance, and good is achieved through knowledge of oneself and the world. His Socratic method, based on dialogue and critical reflection, sought to challenge preconceptions and foster a deeper understanding of truth. Socrates believed that the pursuit of truth and constant self-examination were essential to leading a virtuous life. By questioning our own beliefs and actions, and by always seeking what is just and right, we can confront evil with moral clarity and act in accordance with good. In modern life, Socrates' teaching reminds us of the importance of critical reflection and continuous learning. In a world where information is abundant but often superficial, the ability to think critically and question our own assumptions is crucial to making ethical and well-informed decisions. The Socratic lesson that an unexamined life is not worth living remains a powerful call to self-reflection and commitment to truth. Confucius, the great Chinese philosopher, offered a worldview based on harmony, morality, and human relationships. Confucius taught that virtue begins in the family and extends to society. For him, filial piety, respect for the elderly, and social responsibility were fundamental to building a just and harmonious society. Confucius also emphasized the importance of Ren, often translated as humanity or benevolence, which implies deep empathy and concern for others. According to Confucius, evil can be overcome by consistently practicing virtue in our daily interactions, treating others with respect, justice, and love. In modern life, Confucius's teachings invite us to focus on the importance of human relationships and the responsibility we have towards others. In an increasingly individualistic and disconnected world, Confucian wisdom reminds us that community well-being is fundamental to individual well-being, and that by cultivating virtue in our personal and social relationships, we can contribute to the common good. Mahatma Gandhi, while not a philosopher in the traditional academic sense, was a thinker and leader whose philosophical approach to nonviolence and truth has had a lasting impact on the world. Gandhi taught that love and nonviolence, or ahimsa, are the most powerful tools for confronting evil and promoting justice. For Gandhi, truth, satya, was the foundation of all moral action, and the search for truth required a willingness to sacrifice oneself for others and to resist evil without resorting to violence. The practice of nonviolence was not simply a political strategy, but a way of life that involved respect for the dignity of all living beings and steadfastness in resistance to evil. In modern life, Gandhi's teachings offer us a guide to confront injustice and oppression without perpetuating the cycle of violence. In a world where violence and division seem to prevail, the Gandhian approach challenges us to seek peaceful solutions and to act with love and compassion, even in the face of adversity. His insistence on coherence between means and ends reminds us that true social and personal change can only be achieved through actions that reflect our deepest values. Resilience is the ability to bounce back and adapt in the face of adversity, trauma, tragedy, or significant stress. It is an essential quality when it comes to maintaining a commitment to good in a world where evil and injustice often seem to prevail. Resilience does not simply mean resisting or enduring, but also finding a way to grow through difficulties, to transform them into opportunities for learning and personal development. When we face evil, whether in the form of acts of injustice, violence, or even pain and loss in our personal lives, resilience allows us to maintain our moral integrity and continue to act in accordance with our values, even when it is difficult. It is resilience that enables us not to succumb to despair, apathy, or cynicism, but to keep fighting for good with determination and hope. The importance of resilience lies in its ability to help us stay the course when we face challenges that test our conviction and commitment to good. In a world filled with uncertainty, injustice, and suffering, it is easy to lose faith in the ability to do good or in the impact of our actions. However, resilience reminds us that every small act of kindness and justice counts, and that even in the most difficult circumstances, we have the power to positively influence our lives and the lives of those around us. Resilience allows us to see beyond the pain and difficulty of the present moment and gives us the strength to move forward, believing in a better future. Without resilience, it is easy to fall into discouragement and allow evil to paralyze us or divert us from our path. With resilience, we can face challenges with a spirit of hope and perseverance, holding firm to our conviction that good can prevail. Strengthening emotional resilience is a process that requires practice and commitment. One of the most effective strategies for building resilience is cultivating a growth mindset. This involves seeing challenges and failures not as indicators of our incompetence or as insurmountable obstacles, but as opportunities to learn and grow. By adopting a growth mindset, we can face evil with confidence that, even though the road is difficult, we have the ability to improve, adapt, and overcome difficulties. This perspective helps us maintain the motivation and energy needed to continue striving for good, even when things don't go as we expected. Another key strategy is building a strong support network. Relationships with family, friends, colleagues, and community members can be an invaluable source of strength and comfort during difficult times. When we face evil, having people who support, listen, and encourage us can make a big difference in our ability to stay resilient. Social support not only provides us with an emotional refuge, but it also offers us additional perspectives and resources that can help us see beyond our own limitations. By cultivating and maintaining healthy relationships, we are better equipped to face adversity with resilience and to find creative and constructive solutions to the problems we face. Self-care is also essential to strengthen emotional resilience. Taking care of our physical and mental health provides us with the energy and clarity needed to deal with evil effectively. This includes maintaining a balanced diet, exercising regularly, getting enough sleep, and practicing relaxation techniques such as meditation or mindfulness. Self-care also involves making room for activities that bring us joy and satisfaction, such as hobbies, time in nature, or quiet moments. By taking care of ourselves, we not only strengthen our ability to withstand stress and pressure, but we also create a strong foundation from which we can act with compassion and justice. Self-care is an act of self-love that empowers us to love and care for others, even in the midst of adversity. Another important strategy is the development of gratitude. Practicing gratitude, focusing on the positive things in our lives, can be a powerful antidote to discouragement and despair. Even in the most difficult circumstances, there's always something to be thankful for, whether it's the support of a friend, an unexpected act of kindness, or just being alive. Gratitude helps us maintain a balanced perspective, And remember that while we face challenges, we also have much to be thankful for. This positive approach can fuel our resilience, reminding us that good exists and is worth continuing to fight for. Finally, a sense of purpose is crucial to resilience. Having a clear and meaningful purpose provides us with a compass that guides us through difficult times. When we are committed to a greater purpose, such as fighting for justice, protecting the environment, or the well-being of our community, we are more motivated to persevere, even when circumstances are adverse. Purpose gives us a reason to keep going and helps us keep the focus on good rather than succumbing to evil. Cultivating a sense of purpose and connecting with our deepest convictions can be a powerful source of resilience, giving us the strength to overcome evil and contribute to the common good. Personal transformation is a powerful tool for change, both individually and collectively. Personal growth, understood as the continuous process of self-discovery, self-improvement, and development of our moral, emotional, and intellectual capacities, not only has a profound impact on our lives, but also influences our ability to overcome evil in the world around us. As we work on our personal transformation, we develop a greater understanding of ourselves and our motivations, allowing us to act with greater integrity and consistency in our interactions with others. This process of self-improvement empowers us to confront evil with renewed moral strength, making choices that reflect our deepest values and contributing positively to society. Personal growth is critical because external change in the world often begins with internal change in the individual. As each person works on their own transformation, cultivating virtues such as empathy, compassion, justice, and wisdom, they become an agent of change in their environment. This personal change influences how we treat others, how we make decisions, and how we deal with challenges. Overcoming evil, whether in the form of injustice, violence, corruption, or any other challenge, requires individuals who are committed to good, not just in theory, but in daily practice. Through self-improvement, we develop the ability to act more justly, to resist the temptation to act selfishly or destructively, and to inspire others to do the same. A clear example of how personal transformation can influence the overcoming of evil is the case of Nelson Mandela. Before becoming a global symbol of the anti-apartheid struggle, Mandela spent years in prison, where he underwent a profound personal transformation. Throughout his imprisonment, Mandela worked on his own growth, reflecting on justice, forgiveness, and reconciliation. This inner transformation allowed him to emerge from prison not with bitterness or a desire for revenge, but with a clear vision of a future where peace and equality could prevail. Mandela used his personal transformation to influence the process of change in South Africa, promoting reconciliation between former enemies and guiding the nation towards a path of unity. His ability to overcome hatred and violence through his own personal growth was crucial to overcoming evil in his country and serves as a powerful example of how self-improvement can contribute to a better world. Another example is that of Malala Yousafzai, the young Pakistani activist who, after surviving an assassination attempt by the Taliban, became a global advocate for girls' education. The attack she suffered could have filled her with fear and hatred, but instead, Malala used this experience to deepen her commitment to justice and human rights. Through her healing process and personal growth, Malala developed a resilience and determination that have led her to become a powerful voice against oppression and ignorance. Her personal transformation not only enabled her to overcome trauma, but also empowered her to influence the lives of millions of people around the world, advocating for positive change in education policies and women's rights. Malala is a living example of how self-improvement and personal transformation can be fundamental tools in the fight against evil and in the promotion of good in society. If you like this content and want to continue exploring topics that will help you grow and make the world a better place, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like this video. See you in the next one.